Hello everybody. So this is almost a little bit like a making of. I just wanted to show off a little bit the original version of Light Flower Dark Leaf. On the left here, Ljusblommans Morka Blad, and on the right, my translation of it. Talk a little bit about the process and why I did this, and just show off what you can expect if you grab this off the drive-through Free League workshop. So on the left, we've got the Swedish one. On the right, we've got the translation into English. Of course, you'll see that the artwork is different. I didn't want to use artwork without permission. There's one little exception. I hope the guys will forgive me that because it's important to the plot. But on the right, where I found this was actually NASA and the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Caltech. They make some beautiful artist impression of space pictures, and you're allowed to use those public domains, so I thought that was a great picture, and it does match as well. So 10 years between those. Let's have a look. The reason I actually got into these translations was I was looking for somewhere to take my group that wasn't Kua, and I didn't want to start the Emissary Lost right away. I wanted to break them in a little bit, explore the place a little bit before we start changing it, and I couldn't find a lot on that would actually be a good story plot line through the Rimward Reach. And I came across these old resources for the first version of Coriolis, which had not been translated. Now they have. And I grabbed 3 of them and worked through translations for my guys. Yeah, offered them to Free League, and they said, you know what, we're not going to republish these, but if you want to put your translations onto the Free League workshop, then you can. Yeah, just make sure that you credit everybody and make sure that they are free or pay what you want, which is what I did. And by the way, just so you don't misunderstand this, this is not a generic permission for everybody to do this. I had specific permission to do 3 books, and they are now all done. So what have I done with this? As you can see, the original has got this little mood piece at the beginning, which I've put on. On the right, the template is the Free League Workshop template. On the left, it's the much better layout and much more arty layout that the professionals came up with at the time. That was Christian Granata. I'm sure some of you have heard that name before, who did all the maps and the layout. Yeah, a little bit of mood pieces, very useful for you as a GM, and actually they can be used with the players as well later on. What I have added is the table of contents, just to help you guys navigate it. Remember, on a PDF, you can click on them, and that takes you straight to where you want to go. You can also use the bookmark function up here on the left, and you get the full structure laid out to show you how the whole thing is structured, of course, as a document, but also as a story. You get your introduction here, you get your first, second, third act. Each act is split into episodes and scenes. And that way you can actually understand the structure as you read it, or maybe even before you start reading it, just to say, okay, what lies in wait for my guys here? How's this structure actually going to work? And then you've got some handouts at the back as well. But I'll get to them when I get to them. So you can see the layout originally. I've basically kept the same structure. So if it says here background and then the Handouts, you'll find the same in the English version. Yeah, paragraph by paragraph, I really haven't changed a lot. I've changed a few formulations. Occasionally, very occasionally, I put a couple of extra sentences in just to explain it a bit better. Or where I had struggled to understand it, I just put a bit more padding around it. So, what I have not done, as I said, I have not included all the character sketches and the artwork because of the licensing restrictions. What I loved about the original, to try to replicate, were these little lists. Yeah, these overviews here. So you had a number of pre-gen characters that came with this scenario originally. I think it was originally written for Stockholm Gaming Convention. But unfortunately, I didn't have any other the details. I just had this list for the pre-gens, so I didn't make any up. But you can, by all means. If you don't, the names could be useful because occasionally in the flavor text you'll see some of these names mentioned. But yeah, fair enough. I just wanted to keep it in. The glossary is something that I think more modules, more scenarios should use, because it gives you a very, very quick overview of what's what. And you also have the dramatis persona, the people who will appear in the story, which can help you very much later on when running the story, because you don't have to remember all the names. You just have this little list in front of you. But I'm sure you will remember the names, being a competent GM. Every act starts with a list of the episodes that you can expect to see, and that's basically how the next bit is structured. Flavor text is in these italics. You can read them out if you like, or you can just use it as inspiration for your own. Descriptions, I quite liked it again. What I have tried to do also is to keep the structure of the GM tips for the episodes. Doesn't look as pretty as in the original. Let me just find it. Where they had these in these sidebars, and these beautiful sidebars. That was just very fitly to do. I was using Word for my layout, and on Word you start shifting everything about and things fall to bits. The layout actually took almost as long as the typing out of this. What I have recreated are the maps. Yeah, again, the maps are nice, the original maps, but I didn't want to just lift them. So I recreated them in Dungeon Fog. Put them into the back of the book as well if you want to grab them from there. Maybe use them for your VTT or just print them off, whichever you like. There's a version with grid and without grid as well. All right, so let me go through. Oh yes, here was the chase where they have to go full steam back to Djachroum. They have rescued their friend and now he needs medical attention. Good tension in it. There's a sort of slow down effect in it, or a surprise in it, a twist, and I don't want to say too much about that. But it's really good fun, this bit. This is where we come to the exception of the artwork. See that stone here? That's what I used. The description of the node stone. I just thought we needed a picture for that. And as much as I wish I could say I was an artist, I really am not an artist. So hopefully the guys will forgive me for taking one picture from the original. Yes, this map as well. Yeah, I didn't want to recreate that because I thought that was actually really nice and clear. But of course all the text along the side is in English now. Yeah, it's spread out here. If you guys want to find more about this location, Djachroum, the station, the spaceport, all that, then check out the Djachroum and Rimward Reach sourcebook. I translated it as well as also on DriveThru, and it's also pay what you want. So I try to include again the NPCs. On here you see some very, very strange values. That's one from the first Coriolis. Of course that doesn't match ours at all, where you say, oh, okay, if I have my Dura knife, my attribute is 15, you don't get 15 dice. It would be nice, I'm sure you might occasionally roll a 6 if you did. But of course what I try to do is I try to translate these into the more modern version. Often, however, I will only give you highlight skills. So it's not the full spec of the whole person. Yeah, I'm sure you can find generic people, but that's basically what the important things are, the ones that are highlight skills. Right. What else can I tell you? Oh, this scene, the surgery, episode 4. That's really good fun. You can really play, you can creep people out, can really play with a bit of body horror if you like. Enjoy that bit, that's really good. Right, and then you've got the chase down to the arena, which is probably one of my favorite scenes in the whole thing. I'll just show you that as well. Sasaya's arena. So that's just where they do the equivalent of dogfighting, but they do this with genetically engineered cats. And yeah, that was a really good laugh. And people were trying to bet on them, and you could work with the smells and the sounds of the crowd before you then progress the story. It's a nice little mood piece in the middle of this, an episode where things slow down a little bit, but you can just really dive into the setting. All right, you don't need all of this to talk about, but the third act is where it all comes together. Yeah, they start getting into the underground. They start getting into the more mysterious parts of the stations, into the less obvious bits of setting, and it's really nicely paced. Yeah, I have to say, the way they've written this. You've got a relatively lighthearted start, then it gets darker and darker, and then it starts from the dark mode to go into the fast action. And the fast action then is a nice set piece in the Rift, Escalum's Rift. Yeah, where I was actually wondering, oh, how do you translate this? Is it Escalum's Gorge, Chasm, Rift? But then I settled, I think, in the core rulebook it said Escalum's Rift as well, so I decided to stick with that and sounded best anyway. It's a 3D fight map on the left. I kept this map as well because I think it's very clear. and trying to recreate that in Dungeon Fog would have been less clear. So this is potentially a 3D fight for you guys. Yeah, my group had a really good evening with this, or a really good couple of hours almost, jumping from rock to rock, trying to stay in cover while fighting the opponent. On this opponent, actually, this KI, this kinetic intelligence, that was one of those things which is typical for translations. Yeah, there came this term, which basically I can't remember exactly what it's called in Swedish now, but you had lots of translation things. So this basically was the heavenly weave, or it could have been the heavenly loom, which I went for a while, and I thought that doesn't sound good enough, so let's call it the celestial loom. And I went with that for most of the time. And just before I then put this out, I checked the stats block for the kinetic intelligences in the core rulebook, and there was one particular one which clearly was inspired by this, because it says this is the sort of kinetic intelligence that belongs to the celestial web. I had read that before, but I'd never really connected until I reread it now. And then all of a sudden I went, oh, right, yeah, that's what they meant. Luckily, Word has a find and replace function, so that was very easy to fix. Anyway, just as a little story about the process. So you have a set piece, they get in there, it's highly dramatic here in this Germanized station. You know, put the map on, as I said. If you want them in bigger, go grab them from Dungeon Fog. I put them on as public maps. You should be able to download them there from in a bigger size as well. Yeah, so you get a piece there. You've got a hectic, frantic thing trying to get into a room, and then after that, you think you're done, and then you get this the final encounter. Yeah, with Maliki. I'm not going to say much more. Yeah, if you're the GM, you know what I mean. If you're not the GM, you probably shouldn't have watched it this far. But this scene here at the end is really good. A typical villain sort of thing to do, but yeah. Then there's a few hooks. What's going to happen after the story, at the end of the story, and then properly after the story. How can you expand this? How can you spin this further? In the original, they had plans to do a trilogy of these. There are 3 stories, I think, that came out, but they're not connected as a trilogy, so unfortunately they never finish it. But hey, you're a good writer. You go and finish it. And because it's the time where the last Cyclade has been put out in beta, there were a few clues in there to say that Djachroum is going to become more important in future. So this, I think, is a really, really good opportunity to get your group out there, get them to meet the people, get them to have a look at the place, and understand it before it might change a bit further. Right at the back, we had here the handouts. Yeah, I didn't make them as green and black. Yeah, but what I did, I just put them as plain texts. These different handouts here. If you want to copy and paste them and reformat them, you'll know what you use with your players anyway. Or you can just print these off relatively easily, cut them to bits, or put them in your VTT, whatever you want to do with them. This log here, it looks quite boring, but actually, because the way it's structured, that you discover bit by bit what was going on, and then later on the players discover that what happened here might not be the only time it happened. That was really priceless for me to watch that, how the players would puzzle this out. The dates, of course, this is here, year 61, it says. You can change that easily. I just took that from the original. 23rd day of the 7th month of the 61st year cycle. Right, and then the maps. Yeah, Dungeon Fog, recommend checking it out. I quite like it to make these simple maps. You get some nice lighting effects on it. Yeah, it looks okay. I'm not the absolute expert on it. I'm sure I could have dressed the scenes a bit more, but at least you've got some maps in here that you can use. Okay, so I hope that was interesting, and maybe it might encourage you to do something as well, to put some of your own adventures on the Fria Ligan workshop. It's actually a bit fiddly, but once you've got the template and once you have got the process down, it's really rewarding to be able to contribute something back to the community. The way it works is that you publish something through the Fria Ligan workshop, then DriveThru takes a cut, and the Fria Ligan takes a cut, and you get about 50% of what people choose to pay. Yeah, it's a nice little pocket money, and has enabled me to buy some extra resources and some other things, maybe some more Swedish books. But yeah, do it by all means. If you've got ideas, get them out there. Let's get some good content behind Coriolis, because it's a great game and deserves it. Okay, have any questions, any suggestions, anything else, put it in the comments. Let me know what you think, and I hope you enjoyed this. That's it.